I'd like to show some principles that you can learn from a ancient weapon style that you can apply and make your Aikido better, make your Judo better, whatever you're training in, karate, make that better just by studying these principles inherent in a weapons art. First, because what you'll learn is pretty complex, I want to narrow it down to two principles. Basically, the organization of the hips and how that will affect how you can do your technique, or the quality of your technique by how you position your hips and your stance control. So now I'm going to start with showing you not Kenjutsu techniques, but the principles of the Kenjutsu and how it affects your body. So from this position, a beginner will start from this position and pull their hips towards them, and then because they pull their hips back, that pulls their weapon back. So their technique will look like this. They'll pull back, they'll pull their center back to cut. Lift up and cut, okay, because they're pulling their energy back. Now they get very good at this, okay, so that you can get very good at that, but that's the first beginning level. So the more intermediate way to move the hips is lock your hips and then give a stability point by which to move your weapon. So I'm going to pull it back, cut, pull it back, cut. So it's very stable, but I'm not transferring any energy, and I'm having to deal with a lot of compensation to tighten for, because it's unnatural movement and I'm doing all the movement from my upper body. So what I'd like to do is show you the advanced way to do that. So how do I get my sword to come to me without pulling it to me? Watch, I am going to throw so much energy in my left hip forward that it's going to throw my weapon back. So I'm going to drive forward, and that drives my weapon behind me. Okay? Now, I had so much energy in my hip, I've got to put my leg behind me to stop that motion. Okay? And so I don't spin around, I've got to use my back leg. I'm going to actually throw it forward to compensate for all that power that I put in my body. So I'm going to spin, and I'm going to throw this hip forward to compensate for that energy. Okay? Then from this position, instead of pulling my hip back to cut, I'm going to push it forward to cut into position. Now again, lifting my sword, instead of lifting it with my shoulders or lifting it, I am going to, again, watch my left hip. I'm going to push my left hip forward, and that is going to drive my weapon up. So my whole point is not to show you all the techniques, but to show you that my hips have to drive the weapon, and you're so close to the ground, you can't cheat, you can't compensate for incorrect motion. So the last aspect of center control and moving that energy up into the arm is, what's very important is the ki. So as I do that, I'm going to, when I put this hip, how I'm going to get the power through my body into the weapon without tightening up, is I'm going to make a sound. So from here, I'm going to stay relaxed and Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show that same principle seated but standing, how it's going to affect your weapon, and then how it's going to affect your Aikido. So from the seated position, again, I was pulling my center back to move the weapon. So the same thing here, when I'm back, when I'm going to go forward, it's very common to pull the hips back and come up over the weapon because I'm pulling my center back. Okay? And then this creates a kickstand stance. So you will see the beginner pulls, and then they've got all their weight on their front foot, and then they can't really move because they're out of position. So that's going to affect how they do their body techniques. Okay? So again, I'm pulling, and that's stopping because I've got to hunch over. So you either bend over, you bend forward. You know, this foot's a kickstand. Okay. Then the next level up is going to be stable stance, and then I'm going to move from a stable stance. So I lock my stance, and it becomes very stable. So it controls all of this pressure that I'm creating with my upper body. So again, I want to work to where I am, the pressure that I get in my stance dropping. When I drop that pressure, I'm going to drop that into the weapon, push forward, and when I'm through pushing with the back leg, I've got the front leg to push onto. When I'm through pushing, I'm dropping. So I never retreat my center. I'm pushing, driving forward. I'm pushing, driving forward. So I'm always have forward pressure to control this weapon. Okay, so let's translate the upper body technique and the level of skill with the upper body, or with the lower body. Let's translate and how it controls or limits your Aikido technique. So if I'm going to do something like this, and I'm going to step in, and I'm going to get on this front leg, and this back leg is going to be I'm not going to throw you, this back leg is going to be a kickstand. My pressure has to come from me pulling my center back and throwing him forward, okay? Which totally compensates my posture, and I have no control after, and I just kind of hope he falls down, kind of thing. Then the next level, when you stabilize your hips, you lock your hips into control, and then you still have to bend forward because you have no forward motion. So even though you're more balanced doing it, your hips have no control, okay? As opposed to when I come in here with my hips and I'm going to drive, I'm going to lock up with his center. Then I'm going to drive, and then I am going to push, and when I run out of push of this leg, I still have this leg to push from. So you don't run out of push, so you can drive, and throw without getting off balance yourself. So again, I'm going to take my pressure from my stance moving down, and my pressure moving through my body. I'm going to transfer it in his center. So how do you do that? In the right position, now I'm not going to grab him because I want to show you the control of the center, not the arm grab. So bring around here. Now, watch, as I go, I'm going to take his body down. So you have the stance control to control the motion of the body without having to compensate with rolling over and becoming a kickstand, pulling your center back, or locking your center and having no power from there. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave you with an exercise that you can do to really start learning how to use your hips to move the weapon. I'm seated because here you can't cheat. Your legs aren't attached to anything, so you really have to use your center to control the weapon. So the first thing you're going to do is, you're going to start here, and as you're pulling this way, you're going to pull, and then your hand comes across with your hips pushing your hand, and then that spins your weapon out. So pushes the hand, so you're going to push, and then you can push from the other side. So push,